If you have any sort of online business, like an OnlyFans, a Patreon like myself, or an Airbnb, and you need somebody to help you manage your books, please get in touch with Molly Morris from m3virtualaccounting.com. I hired her 2 years ago and wish I had done it sooner. And now that we have 2023 looming ahead of us, it is a good time to get your finances in order for the new year. You can go to m3virtualaccounting.com and set up a free FREE, completely without cost, zero money consultation with Molly Morris to find out if she can help you reach your financial goals. That's m3virtualaccounting.com. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, the reading Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you the latest from 1998, calling with your requests. Now, in this episode, we are covering chapters 53 and 54, Tyrion and Davos. Tyrion finds out about the Red Wedding and has a conversation with his dad that goes as well as any conversation with his father. And then we see Davos advocating for Edric Storm, even though the king clearly doesn't really want to hear it. But that's why he needs to hear it. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right, so we're after the fucking drama of the Red Wedding. We're just going to go back to life as usual in King's Landing.
Oh, yeah.
With everybody, just like, they killed Robin and his mom. And we have one of the Tullys as hostage. All right, cool. What's for dessert? What did you feel about these chapters?
It was the Tyrion chapter. Actually, the Davos chapter I really, really liked. The Tyrion chapter was very good, too. Once again, the whole way time moves in this universe still continues to tickle me because I wasn't sure where we were going exactly after the Red Wedding. And I kind of suspected maybe we would go somewhere really far away, like to Jon or Daenerys, so that when we do come back to Westeros proper, it will feel like more time has passed. You know what I mean? So I wasn't expecting to like the very next chapter to be like King's Landing and like, oh yeah, did y'all hear about that wedding? They're calling it the Red Wedding, by the way. So,
yeah, the townsfolk are out here just being like, oh shit. And they cut his head off and sewed it onto his wolf. And I'm just like, this is fucked up. Y'all are just like,
The way they called it, like the Red Wedding and how fast it spread, it's like what we do now where we just hashtag any fucking thing.
Yes, 100%. Yup. See this? Hearing about this? Oh, at the Red Wedding.
Right, it's trending. I wonder what's going on there. And then you click on the tag and you're just like, wait, no.
30 to 50 feral hogs.
That will
I just
always
had
be
that
funny.
in my memories like a while back. I was like, I forgot all about that fucking feral hogs thing. What a weird moment in our like collective internet history.
Good times.
All right, so we start off with him and Sansa and this like incredibly
This is
awkward,
the most
stilted
depressing dinner.
I swear to God.
Oh God, it's like a fucking O'Neill play or something. It's just like this fucking couple that doesn't know how to talk to each other having the saddest dinner ever. It's just all this discussion about peas, and I'm just like, It's not about the peas.
The peas are overcooked. No matter, he said. So is the mutton. It was a jest, but Sansa took it for criticism. I'm sorry, my lord. Why? Some cook should be sorry, not you. The peas are not your province, Sansa. I am sorry that my lord husband is displeased.
Oh my god.
This is so awkward.
This is like really like tiring too. Like I can't imagine like living like this. Like where every conversation is just like, you know, the other person isn't like getting what you're trying to say, you know, and everything is just tense, and like she cannot wait to run out of this dinner.
Yes.
And you know, we find out that she spends like a lot of time away from him praying. And it is just the saddest marriage.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about this scene is that she's sort of treating him the way she would treat Joffrey, where she's trying to apologize and kowtow and kind of like cut him off at the pass of something that she's thinking he might be wanting to get angry about.
Right.
She's like much more concerned about his reaction because she doesn't understand who he is as a person and has been so mistreated so badly that she's basically got like PTSD and is responding in the way she would for dealing with some of the other trauma that she's gone through.
And for Tyrion, who seems to be aware of that, right? Because there's a couple of times where he thinks to himself that like he can only imagine how she feels and what this hell is like and all that. So, but he also seems to be really frustrated that she still doesn't seem to get that he's not that person. You know? There's like a hint of kind of like, it feels to me anyway, there's a hint to Tyrion just being like, what else can I fucking do or say, you know? I'm not pressing her to sleep with me. I don't raise my voice to her. I don't get cross with her, and she's still walking around on eggshells, and it's kind of getting old and boring almost at this point. You know what I mean? Even though he's not trying to be like mean to her and like trying to be empathetic and patient, but it does feel a little bit like this is starting to wear on him.
This is the thing about dealing with people who have experienced trauma, is that we all like to think that we would be so patient and understanding, but there comes a point where we feel that logic should have taken over and pointed out that they don't need to worry. And that's the thing about trauma, is that it doesn't operate on logic. So you can't just talk somebody down from feeling how they feel. It doesn't work like that. And like, not only that, but Sansa has been fucking tricked like a few times. So there's nothing to say that this isn't some other game that another Lannister is playing to make her feel like she can trust him and let her guard down, and then he can do God knows what.
And his frustration at her not being able to distinguish Tyrion from, say, like the rest of the Lannisters, right? Because he clearly sees himself as being very separate from them and not as cool as them, and in a lot of ways that's true. But it feels like he wants Sansa to recognize that he is not like them. And I agree with you. She can't like trust that, you know, like it wouldn't be wise, I think, of her to trust that. Again, I'm not really sure how much time has passed since they've been married, but
not certain either.
But considering what she's been through, her suspicion and fear is well founded, I think. Definitely. And it really does feel to me like there's sort of like an inner conflict with Tyrion, where on one hand he gets that, you know, and but then there's another part of him that it's really starting to fucking grate against him, that she is because it's almost like an insult. Like, why don't you see that I'm different than them? I'm better than them, you know? And so he just seems like a little worn down. By her just refusal to let her guard down around him.
And you know, because it has been such a point of pride for him to try and be better than at least his sister, I can understand how linked his identity is to this, and the fact that she can't see that or doesn't trust it. He would take it much more personally, maybe. But I just want him to remember, like, especially in light of the news that they get today.
My God, right? Exactly.
It's not going to be awesome.
And he throws that little line in this chapter too, like his Tywin is all like, "Oh, and by the way, did you fuck her yet? Like, when you need to get on schedule." And Tyrion is just like, "Yeah, I'm sure she'll be really fucking ready to go after we, she finds out we just killed her brother and mother."
Yeah.
And that is a good fucking point, Tyrion. Of course, like, nobody, like, Tywin doesn't give a fuck whether Sansa cares, or is ready or not. Tywin is basically just like, go home and fuck your wife, whether she wants it or not. That's your 100%. Duty. And that shit is hella gross. I know this, I get it, guys. This universe, the times, this is the way things were. I get all that. It's still gross.
Very gross. Yeah. This is something that it took me a long time to sort of come to terms with, because in the first time I covered this series, I was just like, well, women understood, like, what their duty was and blah, blah, blah. And, like, I just didn't want to see that you can understand and still be forced to do something. And I had a conversation with a listener at one point, and he basically was like, so in that scenario, if they are unwilling, then every woman who has been married off to somebody that she doesn't want to be is just raped for potentially the rest of her life. And I was like, that's exactly correct. And they were just like, oh God. And I was like, yeah, see, like, I didn't want to think of it that way either, because that's fucking grim, but that's what it is. So it's being a woman.
Yeah.
So, not recommended.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
2 stars.
10 do not recommend. So after this really just fucking this dinner that I even I was like, I can't wait till this shit is over.
He's like, I like the peas. They're fine. Look, give me more peas. And then he's like, God damn, now I have to eat these fucking peas.
Listen, I hate peas. I don't eat them. I have never eaten them as I was, when I was a little girl, I know it's not like we know better now, I think, and the parents don't do it anymore, I hope. But when I was a kid, it was very like, you sit and clean your plate, we don't waste food and all that kind of stuff. So I was not a picky eater as a kid, but I had a couple of like real hard lines that I was willing to fight about. And I would fight about peas. It was like the one thing that my mom could make, and I would just be like, no, I'm not eating them. I'll sit at this table until midnight. I don't give a fuck. Not eating them. And would have to, like, before she realized that I was dead ass, we went toe to toe about it, and I would just not fucking eat them. I just, no, absolutely not. And it was weird too, because there was a couple of other vegetables that, like, nobody in the family really liked, like cauliflower. Who likes that? Brussels sprouts. Nobody likes those, except you. I know you love them. But for some reason,
vegetables mostly in general, though.
I do too. But for some reason, peas were just an absolute non-starter for me. So when he has this moment where he asks for more peas, and now there's too many peas, and they're all over his plate, and he can't even see the mutton anymore, and he's just like, oh fuck, now what have I done? When I tell you, I felt that shit.
Well, I'm glad I didn't make anything with peas while you were visiting.
Yeah, I will, like, if they show up in anything, I will eat around them. Like sometimes people make soup with them. They're so mushy inside. Ew, why?
Ew, they're not mushy unless you eat them out of like a can.
And, well, I don't want to derail the whole podcast, but there is a type of pea that I like, and I don't know enough about cooking to explain what type of pea it is. I maintain that it's not really a pea at all. Like, they're like, you ever like snap peas? Those kind of deal.
Like snow peas? Or sugar snap peas that you eat the pod?
Yes, the kind that those.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I like those in very low qualities, but like, if you're just gonna make a big pot of peas and put them on my plate, that's not gonna make me very happy.
Yeah, peas. See, this is what you're saying about them being like mushy inside. Anytime that I hear this, I'm just like, you've had them prepared really badly.
Probably.
And that might not be true. It
Probably.
might be that you really but like, this is the thing I've seen with so many people with like various vegetables, is that folks didn't know how to cook vegetables, and we got a lot of shit out of a can for a long time. And it's made a lot of us think that we don't like things that actually people just made badly.
The thing about that, though, is I've had a lot of peas, a lot of places over my long life, and I have never cared for them. Has every single person and place I've ever been all making them wrong?
Well, and this is what I'm saying. Like, I may be wrong about it, but the peas that I would never call them mushy inside, and we may just have like a different standard for what mushy means.
That is true.
But I always like them to have a little bit of a bite to them, the same way that I like broccoli steamed to a point, but I don't want it to be mushy.
I love broccoli.
Broccoli's the best.
I love it. Oh, you know what else can get fucked? Lima beans.
Oh, ew. I don't even I haven't had a lima bean since I was probably 6 years old. And I could not be persuaded. Like, that is one thing I'm just not going to give a second chance. That's it. It's done. I don't like them. Bye. See, in the rearview mirror. Not interested.
That's how I feel about peas. Bye. Rearview mirror.
Fucking, like, the other thing is, didn't they renamed lima beans, like, butter beans? Like, they rebranded them and tried to be like, oh, they're good, they're different. It's not. It's the same thing. You're lying.
They're just like a little bit lighter in color, right?
Yeah, like, you know, and
trying to fool
it's like
me with your butter beans.
garbanzo and chickpeas. They're the same.
They are.
What are you doing?
I love chickpeas.
Chickpeas are good.
Big fan.
I like to do this thing where I dry them if I get the canned kind, and then toss them in olive oil and curry powder, and roast them in the oven.
That sounds a nice little really good. That sounds fantastic. Yeah.
Even though I know you don't like curry, but you could use any kind of powder.
No, I do like curry. It's the other one. I understand why you're confused, because I thought it was curry for a long time. It's usually in like a lot of Indian food, and I thought it was curry that I didn't like. But it's not. It's probably this. I don't know for sure, but I think it's the saffron that I'm not a fan of.
Oh,
because I'll eat like all kinds of like curried food. Like I'll eat curry chicken and shit like that. Like I'll fuck all that shit right up.
All right.
Yeah.
Well then, try that, because it's really easy, and it's like nice little. It's like a finger food that makes you feel like you're having chips or something, but it's more flavorful and it's better for you. It got some fiber in it and fills you up. It's my tip.
Do you like falafel?
I really do.
I do,
but it has to have like you got to have that sauce with it.
Yes, you do.
That like tzatziki sauce. Otherwise, it's so dry.
There's a cart like right outside the job. One of those halal carts.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good.
I'm so jealous. You can't get good food like that around here. You got to go all the way to Dallas.
You get like a bunch of I like to get it like over a salad instead of in a pita.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
It's so good, you guys. But anyway, okay. George Martin would be
too.
Yes. George Martin would be so proud of us. This little tangent all about food. He would approve.
All right. So they finished dinner, and he asked, like, maybe I should go with you to the gods, when she's like, no.
Oh my God, the way she says no, you guys. And then she's
like, well, you'd just be like really bored. And he's like, oh, she does know me, I guess. And I was like, wow, he really isn't suspicious of her at all, huh?
Right.
He immediately takes that at face value.
I liked it a little bit later. He's just like, well, no, it's here at first. He's just like, well, maybe the quiet would be nice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then he's just like, well, never mind. You go ahead and have your private time, and just, I don't want to intrude.
Appreciate you.
I thought it was really funny too, that when he says that about like the rustling leaves, she doesn't just go, oh, well, you know what? You probably would enjoy that part. That part is really nice. Like, she doesn't say anything. She's just like, I already said no.
Yep. Bless her. She's doing her fucking best in this goddamn
There's this bit
viper
too.
pit.
He says he was tempted to ask her what she prays about, but then he thought he doesn't really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really telling.
Yeah,
it's like a quick acknowledgement of like, I don't think
me and mine are all her enemies.
Basically, right? Like, yeah, like I have a bunch of theories and I can imagine all the things she's praying for, like, you know, to be rescued, her family to show up and all that stuff. But she's probably also praying for all of us to die horrible deaths. And you know what? I don't need to see that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good call, buddy. So he goes to, we had this little bit of information about how he is attempting to understand the ins and outs of Peter Baelish's accounting.
God. His bookkeeping is sus.
Creative. That's the word that they use. Real creative accounting. And Tyrion is realizing that the Antler Men had taken out a bunch of loans from the crown, but then he killed them all. And so he's just like, God damn it, I wouldn't have... fuck. Which I did find pretty funny, actually.
He's talking about sending Bronn to go out and collect on all these debts.
Mm-hmm.
And also acknowledges that they're probably broke anyway, so it's not even worth it.
Yeah, there's well, you know what? I can't tell you that. There's something in Austen's notes that I kind of want to share, but it's a little bit like spoilery in a way that might lead to some thoughts, so I'm not going to share it, but later on I might bring it up again.
Boo.
I'm sorry. This is a close thing, but I think I shouldn't. So yeah, it's just a mess. He can't, like, things are sort of going in and out of different accounts, and that's the easiest way to money launder is you make things go into in and out of so many different places.
It's
that
called layering.
when it's a few dollars off, you don't notice anymore because it's so far removed from the original transaction. What's it called? You said layering?
There's I could bore you to tears, but there's a whole like system that you have to learn about when it comes to like AML practices, like anti-money laundering practices at the bank, and they have different words for the different steps in money laundering, and one of it's like structuring, layering. So like you get the bad money and then you try to integrate it into the flow of legitimate money, money laundering. And so you layer it in, like you take bad money and then you buy like a bunch of gift cards, and then use the gift cards to buy something else, and and like those are like low level ways to do it. There's all kinds of weird terms they come up. You know what they call the people that, like, there's a whole thing where you use somebody to open an account, and then like you pay them to use their bank account to put your like drug money, say, into or whatever, right? They call those people Smurfs.
What?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know who came up with it. I don't know why they call it that. I have no idea.
That's so weird. I never heard that. Okay, knew something. Learn every day. That's fucking sick. Oh boy.
But
it's a good thing we're gonna take some time off for the holidays.
So yeah, but so Baelish has just, been making making $1 out of 15 cents, just making this money really work for the crown, but also he's gotta be stashing something for himself, right? He absolutely has a slush fund somewhere.
Yeah. I love the term slush fund too. That's another, like, that just, it's so evocative. Like, you don't need to know anything about money to get what that means. It's just kind of loosey goosey. Is it water? No. Is it snow? No. Is it ice? No. Who knows what it is? It's whatever you want it to be. I love that term. All right. So he gets summoned by his father, and he's kind of relieved. because he is not enjoying the.
Oh my God, it's like an
money
excuse to put
job.
these fucking books away. He's over these fucking
Exactly.
books. And he gets up there to his father's quarters, and he walks in, and this is just like I was picturing it in my head. These people, the way everybody is grinning, and he's just like, oh, like Cersei's there. Joffrey's got this fucking shit-eating grin on his face. He can barely contain his excitement. Savory's there, looking smug as fuck. His Uncle Kevin is there. Grandmaster Pycelle is there, and Tyrion just. Oh, I do love that his father is not smiling though. I love that that's included. Like a special point is made so that we understand that Tywin is not fucking smiling, because I don't smile, because I'm Tywin Lannister. Have you met me?
And the way that this is written, Rosalind caught a fine fat trout. Her brothers gave her a pair of wolf pelts for her wedding. And I know that this is all written this way so that if the message gets intercepted, then it won't be immediately apparent what's happening. But also, it is so obvious what this means that you may as well just fucking write it out about very literally what's happening here, because come on, bruh. This is just one of those. There's something real awkward to me about people who are trying to be clever and it's not
working out,
camouflaging anything. I am always just like embarrassed by it.
I do like to imagine Walder Frey dictating this message and being super, super satisfied with himself. I don't know for a fact that he wrote this. Somebody else could have wrote it for him. But I like to imagine him just being like, yeah, how about that? Yeah. 2 pelts. Yeah, how about that? What do you want to make of that? Go ahead. Figure it out. I dare you to figure it out.
It's a mystery.
Tyrion gets interrupted here, though, because Tyrion is joking about, like, this message, you know, and what is he trying to say? Is he trying to fucking confuse us or whatever? And he guesses the trout is Edmure, and then it says the pelts, and he kind of, like, has a pause, and before Tyrion can really finish his thought, Joffrey interrupts. So my question is, was Tyrion making his way to understanding that, or was he genuinely kind of like, what could the pelts mean? Because, to your point, this message, even though it's hidden, it's not hidden super well.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think? Do we have thoughts on that?
I kind of, and this isn't really anything other than my instinctual reaction, because I feel like since we know Tyrion, I can say with some confidence that this is like what his reaction probably is in his heart. I feel like he knows what it means and he doesn't want to believe that that's what he's reading.
Right.
Like, there's only one thing it can mean. Wolf pelts. Mm-hmm. Starks are dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a decisive victory. It's so extreme and has happened without them actually even having to be engaged in a battle, which there's something very unsavory about that to him, as we hear later. Mm-hmm. And I think he's just kind of like, that's not what this is, right? We didn't just like kill them, right? I feel like it's more, hey, reassure me.
Right. Okay.
That this is a different meaning than what I think it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I might be wrong. That's just the way I sort of took it.
I like that, and I read it like a couple of times because it could be taken, I think, both ways. When he says, this is Lord of the Crossing, imagine he's being poetic, or is this meant to confound us? At first, I was like, is he really confused about this message, or is he making fun of Frey for how this message isn't confusing at all, and what a bad job he did of trying to like hide this message? And I just really wasn't sure which way to take it. I think it works either way, but yeah, I did go back and forth on that, because he's just like, or is this meant to confound us? Tyrion snorted, like, look at this. What was this supposed to be, like, super secret? Not a good job, guy.
Yeah, maybe that is what it is. It's the reason that I sort of drew what I did was after Joffrey says he's dead, first Greyjoy and now Stark, Tyrion thought of his child wife praying in the gods would even now praying to her father's gods to bring her brother victory and keep her mother safe, no doubt. There's just something bleak about that made me feel like he was just sort of like, oh man, don't tell me, you know?
Yeah. He does this throughout this chapter. There's Tyrion is just having a couple of moments where he's talking about, you know, what the gods would do if they were good, and how the gods are rarely ever good. So why even expect anything, you know?
Yeah.
So fucking Tyrion, Joffrey, you know, blurts out that he's dead, and just like I said, just bouncing off the fucking walls. This is like the best day he's had so far.
So goddamn
he
much.
really is quite distasteful.
Ugh.
Not gonna lie. I did enjoy Tywin just not like having any fucking time for this kid.
Indeed.
I do appreciate having someone.
The king is tired.
Right? And then just orders the king taken to bed and drugged, by the way. Which is, you know, probably not the best way to raise a kid. But it's Joffrey, so I'm going to allow it.
Yeah. I feel like medicating him in some way is advisable, to be fair.
He definitely does need to be medicated, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the best option in this timeline, you know? Just
that's what I'm thinking. Sedate him.
Sedated so he won't be a danger to anybody. So, yeah, everybody is very proud of themselves. Cersei has a lot of satisfaction and is, you know, giving her father all the credit for this victory. And
Joffrey isn't, though.
Oh my god,
Joffrey is acting like he fucking killed them himself.
He really is. He's got all kinds of big plans too. He wants the fucking head to come back to King's Landing. He wants to fucking make Sansa kiss it at the wedding. He's just a fucking he's so fucking awful. It like borders on not even being like a real person. You know, it's almost like a cartoon. He's just that terrible.
And that's kind of what works for me about him, because the like grossness of what he wants to do feels like a kid who has seen cartoons and is just like, oh, you know what I'm going to make her do? I'm going to make her kiss her brother's severed head. That'll, you know, like it is such a childish way to feel like you've got the upper hand and are really like putting somebody in their place. That would come from like hearing stories and things that are meant for children, and you just never really grow past any of that.
He would fucking have Sansa come into a hall and then like just drop a giant piano on her head from the tops to like, you know, like that's 100%. The kind of he would do.
And of course, nobody else would be like as in on the joke as he would want them to, and he would just accuse everybody else of like not having a sense of humor or something, and then it would turn into this weird court where everybody has to do these increasingly cartoonish things to praise the king, and it would just be real bad. It would just go in a lot of bad directions, I feel like. But yeah, I find him just so... there is something like, despite the fact that he does feel almost cartoonish, and normally that would make me feel like, this doesn't work, come on. There is something about him being played this way, but surrounded by people who see how absurd it is. And he just doesn't really have the awareness to see that nobody else thinks this is not only clever, but would be like seen as respectable.
Yeah.
You know,
the fact that he's as young as he is, Joffrey, really lends itself to this type of character, because then it makes it sort of believable, you know?
Yeah.
Because when he is being as outrageous as this and like just not displaying an ounce of like common sense or, you know, thinking long term or any of that shit, then you're reminded, oh, he's a fucking child. That's right. You know, and so then it works. Oh my god, fucking Tywin is talking about like plans of, you know, what they're gonna do next, and they're gonna offer terms to some of those houses, and you know, and hope that the Freyds can keep this family and that family in check, and you know, maybe talk Brackens into attacking the Blackwoods and all this shit. And Joffrey is like, generous terms? No, we're not doing that. I want them all fucking dead. All of them. And everyone is just like, oh,
Dude.
Joffrey.
Dude, no. Tywin has to be like, you do that to people who bend the knee, and guess what, bruh? Nobody ain't never gonna bend the knee again. What are you thinking is gonna happen if you do that? Like, he just doesn't. He thinks the best show of might and force is the way to, like, you know. It's just so short-sighted, and again, very immature and childish.
Yeah. And then not to jump ahead, but then that turns into a whole other conversation, because they basically end up blaming this bad behavior and this fucking ridiculous talk coming out of Joffrey's mouth all on Robert. Oh, that's the Robert coming out, that be bold and, you know, and this, that, and the other thing.
Yes.
And when we get the next chapter and we have Edric also talking about Robert, and it was just really weird to see, like, these two kids.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
it always throws me too, because when Joffrey says "my father," I always
I thought Jamie.
I was then I'm like, oh right, you don't.
For a split second, I was like, oh, we just talking about that shit in front of everybody now, and then I was like, oh wait, no, they're talking about Robert.
Oops-a daisies.
Like, I just straight up forgot that we're all supposed to pretend that Robert is the dad. Like, I just forgot that that's what we were doing.
Yep. And it's just funny to me too, because, like, granted, Robert did do bold things and it did wind up working out for him. He was also, like, incredibly charismatic and kind, and wound up being, like, friends with people who had been enemies, and that was how and Joffrey just smooth sails right off that part.
He has no interest in that part. Like, I'm not going to be kind. I'm just going to be bold, and I will reap the very same rewards my father did. You just watch and see.
And I really think this is Cersei. Cersei is just so, like, her being like, well, you must be strong and be decisive about
100%.
You know, dealing with your enemies. That sounds much more like
I agree.
Than Robert.
I don't believe that Joffrey spent any real time around Robert to hear him say anything about anything, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's also mention of Gregor Clegane that comes up, and then it comes up a little bit later as well. But when Tywin is talking about what's going to, like, happen next, and Tywin is like, you know what, we're going to have to get rid of those guys, those brave companions at Harrenhal, like that. We can't let that stand. They got to go. And he's going to sick the mountain on them. And even Tyrion is just like, oh, this fucking guy. And then
I like the way it's phrased. Is that he says something like his father was going to mine the mountain for every last bit of ore before he turned him over. Because Tyrion is still over here thinking that
there's going to be
his father
justice.
is going to give. Yeah.
When Tyrion finds out that his father has no interest in, you know, maintaining that agreement, that promise about Clegane and, like, turning him over, and basically they're just going to blame some other guy who's already dead. And I have to admit, I was a little surprised that both Tyrion and Tywin are just like, yeah, this will definitely work.
I feel like what Tyrion says is it might serve.
Yeah.
Which feels a lot more like, I mean, I guess what is he gonna do about it? You know, just like who's going to check me is really the vibe.
Gotcha. It's just, I also, I guess, to be fair, Tyrion, even though he spars with his father, he's not going to, like, disobey his father or tell him, you know, we're not doing that, you know, because what can he say? Who is he, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. So then we have this, which I have in the opening song credits from the Metro Genome DJ who did the theme song I've been using. Tyrion calling Joffrey a monster. Joffrey says, "You're the monster," and he says, "Am I?" Perhaps you should speak more softly to me then. Monsters are dangerous beasts, and just now kings seem to be dying like flies. And then we have Cersei being like, let him speak so that my father can see what he is. You are such a fucking drama queen. Oh.
I love that response from Tyrion comes right as Joffrey is threatening, you know, what he wants Sansa to do about kissing the severed head of Robb and all that. And Tyrion speaks up and it's just like, you're going to fucking, you know, stop talking about my wife like that.
Yes.
And he says that, you know, she is no longer yours to torment. And I was just like, that is, I understand what he means when he says yours to torment, like that, you know, she doesn't belong to you anymore. You know, she's mine, which is, you know, not great, but I understand in the moment of what is happening here that it's really like, I was really glad he said it.
Very much so. Yeah. And I also find it hilarious that, like, Cersei is like, I want my father to see what he is. And I'm like, your kid was just talking about making a girl kiss a corpse.
Yeah,
like,
your dad is seeing what everybody is. This moment is very revealing for a lot of reasons, Cersei, not just the one that you think. I love, too, that it just says Lord Tywin ignored that. When she says that, he just ignores her. And this is when he starts to talk to Joffrey directly. And brings up Aerys, and eventually, I think this is when Joffrey ends up saying that Tywin was afraid of Aerys.
Yes.
And
oh my, hasn't this gotten interesting? Tyrion thought. I really like that moment.
He said, "Fucking all the gifts were like nosy ladies, like peeking their heads out or whatever, looking through the blinds or any of a million different gifts." And Cersei is just like, oh my God, Joffrey apologized to your grandfather right fucking now because she understands you do not talk to this man like this. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? And
he does not.
He does not. And he's like, why should I apologize? And this is when he starts talking about how great Robert was and how he won all his battles and a strong king, acts boldly, doesn't just talk. And we get the Lord Tywin says, thank you for your wisdom, your grace. And that he said it with a courtesy so cold, it was like to freeze their ears off.
I loved that.
Jesus Christ. Tywin is a fucking force. He is, Jesus Christ.
Dream wine, my lord. I don't want any dream wine, Joffrey insisted. Lord Tywin would have paid more heed to a mouse squeaking in the corner. Dream wine will serve. Fucking Tywin.
And just, tells, you know, everybody they can get the fuck out except for Cersei and Tyrion. And then they just grip Joffrey up like he's not the king and take him to bed for a nap.
And he does say that, like, any king who says, I am the king is no real king.
Yeah, that's something that Joffrey just does not. It's a lesson he's like trying to beat into his head, and I don't think that is possible. You know?
Yeah.
Even if Joffrey hadn't died, like coming up at his wedding, there would have been no controlling him. You know, he was never going to turn into a good, decent person. You know, he was never going to heed any of Tywin's advice, right? He would have just become more and more uncontrollable as he got older.
I have to imagine so. Because this isn't like a kid that's just been spoiled. He feels like there's something profoundly wrong with him.
Yeah. When Cersei tells the story about how Robert beat him, she mentions that he hit him one time and knocked out 2 of his baby teeth because of some mischief with a cat. So he got caught killing and torturing a cat, right?
I think it's safe to go down that road with it, yes.
Yeah, this kid is fucking damaged.
I feel just like something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with him. And you can do so much, but and also like not just his cruelty, but as Tywin points out, because she says he is willful, I did warn you. There's a long league's worth of difference between willful and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so Tywin is basically very much like me. in that, look, if somebody's a cruel piece of shit, that sucks, but I can cope with it if they at least listen to reason. But if they're a cruel piece of shit who is also incompetent, what do I do with that? I can't do anything with that. And I really hate that I get this, but I do. And as we see later, when he's talking with Tyrion sees the way his father is pacing up and down and can tell that Tywin is actually even more disturbed by what he has seen of Joffrey than he's trying to let on. Yeah. And he keeps saying things like, there's still time, we can still make something of him. Mm-hmm. But there's a sense of desperation to the way he's saying it. Yeah, he definitely seems to be kind of in denial about facing the reality of who his grandson is, what kind of person, kind of man he would be, and what kind of king he'll be. It is bummed out about it. So yeah, he ends up telling Cersei that she can go, which was just rude. Yeah. And it's just him and Tyrion now. And Tywin had called Joffrey Robert II, and Tyrion is like, no, it's Aerys III. Which is a much more damning, accusation, I guess, or prophecy, or however you want to say it. And this is when Tywin is just like, we might be able to fucking do something. And Tywin is like, he requires a sharp lesson, and Tyrion remembers his own sharp lesson, and almost has a moment of feeling sorry for Joffrey. Almost. I did like too when she's talking about Robert beating him. The brute you made me marry hit the boy so hard he knocked out 2 of his baby teeth over some mischief with a cat. I told him I'd kill him in his sleep if he ever did it again, and he never did, but sometimes he would say things. It appears things needed to be said. I was just like, that's the shit. That's it right there, baby. Yes. Love it. So that loose tongue of yours will be your undoing. He's talking to Tyrion basically like, you can't keep your fucking mouth shut. Of course I didn't tell you about the red wedding. You don't know how to do shit subtly. And I was like, ouch. I felt like personally I think too that Tyrion says something about you're plotting or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Tywin is like, I don't like that word. Like he's like offended that somebody called his plot plotting. There's a line in I Love Lucy that sticks with me so bad, where she's like, let me be in the show and I won't send this letter about what a cruel, terrible husband I have to the local paper. And he's like, well, that's blackmail. Oh, come now. Let's not call it that. That's what it is. I know, but let's not call it that. I love Lucy sometimes. Same energy. Yep. Just like, I'm in charge and we are going to decide with my leave what we are calling a thing. So I don't know if you figured out this power dynamic yet, but and this is when they have the conversation about Oberyn Tyrell. Yeah. And there is a little bit at the beginning of this chapter when he's having dinner with Sansa, and he is thinking to himself, like, how little he gives a fuck about these peas, because he's got all this other shit going on. And one of the things that's going on is that there's all these Dornishmen that are in King's Landing, and they have to keep them as far away from the Tyrells as they possibly can. And even doing that, there's still been some run-ins. And there was God, I just realized I called him Oberyn Tyrell too, because you just said that keep him away from Martell. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Oberyn. Please don't come after me. But yeah, there's already been like a big fight, and there's also and this stuck out because I don't remember this being on the show, but there's when Mace Tyrell's wizened little mother called Ilaria Sand the Serpent's Whore. Mm-hmm. Who is that? Ilaria is a character that I do think was cut from the show.
Because I got confused with I was like, oh, is that Oberyn's like not his companion?
Paramour.
Paramour is the word, but that's a different person. And this is their mother, right?
Yes.
So I was like, oh, I made a note of that. Like, oh, I don't know her. What's that all about?
Yeah, let me look this up so that I can make sure not to get this wrong, because God knows. But yeah, because like I love this. I just typed in Ilaria and it popped up. Oh no, she wasn't cut. Indira Varma is the one who plays Ilaria Sand. That Paramour was cut, right? Because was she his paramour?
She was his paramour in the show. Did they switch? Do a switcheroo with book characters? Is that why I'm confused?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm getting confused. Because there is oh God, I'm gonna go see if Austin's notes help us out a little bit. After Elia and her children's death, Oberyn was all for declaring Viserys the rightful king. That's right. I forgot they talk about that this time around with him supporting the Targaryens.
Mm-hmm.
And only Jon Arryn negotiating with Prince Doran Martell stopped it. And it doesn't say. I'm getting people turned around because they replace somebody and then they keep another and have them serve the purpose of two different characters.
Oh, okay.
So I've kind of lost track of how that went.
On the show, the name Ilaria Sand is Oberyn's paramour, definitely.
Okay.
But I don't remember this Tyrell's mother. I got so confused too because the Tyrells are because I was like, oh, a mother, they must mean what was the lady, the Queen of Thorns, right?
The Queen of I think that is who that means. Was the Queen of Thorns said it. Oh. Isn't that I'm sorry. I thought you were getting confused about the Martells. I didn't realize that you were asking about the Tyrells.
Well, so no, this bit here in the beginning of Tyrion's chapter, it says that there was an ugly confrontation in the yard when Mace Tyrell's wizened little mother. Oh, fuck! I get it. I had to read it out loud. The confrontation is between Ilaria and Mace Tyrell's mother.
Yes.
Okay, that was my bad. I was reading that wrong. I thought it was saying there was a confrontation in the yard when Mace Tyrell's wizened little mother, who was called Ilaria Sand. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
So I misread. So it was the queen. Okay, so she just called his girl a whore. Oh, right to her face.
Mm-hmm.
I read that completely wrong. Oh shit. She just called. That is so rude and unnecessary.
I love that you're just putting that together.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I don't support slut shaming, but that's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's you feel pretty safe saying it if you're talking to somebody who's like very openly fucking without being married. It's just gonna be, yeah, you could say that in front of everybody, and what is anybody gonna do? Like say, and especially fucking Olenna doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks anyway. So even if somebody was like, grandmother, she'd be like, fucking go have a cup of tea and shut up.
So the reason I got us all sidetracked on that was just to talk about all the things that Tyrion has got like on his plate and what's going on in King's Landing, and then to find out that there's this whole plot. I'm sorry, Tywin, it was a plot.
It was a plot, indeed.
That he was completely left out of, and finds out after the fact that his family has been involved in this less than noble victory.
Indeed.
And
I also do like him being like, well, did Cersei know? And like the fact that she doesn't know probably makes it feel a little bit better. I don't like not being consulted, but if you talk to my sister and you didn't talk to me, that's a whole other fucking thing. And Tywin hasn't talked to anybody. The only people who knew are the people who needed to know, as he puts it.
Yeah, he's. I could not indulge your curiosity or make your sister feel important. which is what Tyler was saying about why he couldn't, and didn't bother to tell them. And it's really funny to me the different ways he distinguishes between the two. For Tyrion, it's just his curiosity, because you just like to know things that are going on. You want to be in a loop. But for Cersei, telling her would just sort of inflate her sense of self and make her feel even more important. And Tywin has no interest in doing that either.
See, this is why I hate Tywin, but I also, like, he fucking has their number so bad.
He really does.
I just can't help but admire that a little bit. Like, I hate myself for it, but there it is. Because he's dead right.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. He does fucking see. It's funny, like, a lot of the time when I think about Tywin's relationship with his children, all, including Jaime, it always feels like, oh, he doesn't know his kids at all,
Mm-hmm.
But then there are moments where, like this, where you're just like, oh no, he absolutely knows exactly who his children are. It really swings back and forth. I guess maybe if you were going to make a distinction, when we say, he knows his children, like he understands what they are striving for, probably because he's so withholding. He's sort of the reason why they strive for these things, because ultimately it's all just about like getting approval from him in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then in other ways, he doesn't seem to really know his kids at all, because I think he would be really surprised. I think he is surprised and unimpressed with Tyrion sort of like gentleness around Sansa, and doesn't really get it on a real level.
Yeah,
I think that he would be. I think he's befuddled by Jaime in a lot of ways. When
I don't think he wants to face that his kids are fucking either.
Well, there's that. That's the big one, right? That's the big thing. But like, just with like beyond that, but talking about like who his kids are as individuals, and what motivates them, but also like what they're capable of, both good and bad. I think he would. I don't know if there's been a conversation about Jaime. I can't remember where we are, but I feel like if Tywin knew about Jaime and Brienne and like what Jaime sacrificed to save Brienne, I think Tywin would just be like, dude, the fuck? What are you doing? Was it like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Yeah.
So it's just weird to me how he can know his kids so well in one regard, and then on the other hand, just be like completely surprised at some of the choices his children make, which I guess is like all of us, quite frankly,
I think it's interesting that you said too that he understands what they're striving for, because I feel like often when you look at the things that cause a person to make some of the worst decisions in their lives, it's because those decisions butted up against a deep desire of their heart that kind of overcame their better judgment. And so maybe he understands them in a lot of ways because he knows what they're striving for and assumes the worst most of the time regarding how they would react. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he really sees the worst in them mostly.
What an awful thing to see the worst in your children all the time. And then imagine, like, I mean, we see how the three of them behave and what they think. And as bad as it is to be a parent who just sees the worst in your children, like imagine growing up as a child in that dynamic, and then I think like that lends itself to when I talk about like striving for, the approval of a father that they simultaneously like detest, but also are desperate for his validation. Because if every time you look in your father's face and all you see is like contempt and disgust, like a part of you absolutely has to want to punch him right in the face, but another part of you is probably desperate to see like acceptance in his face and would be willing to do almost anything to get it, whether it means like impressing him because you're so smart and clever, or impressing him because you're so strong and, with a sword or whatever,
And the thing with him, I feel like if you're going to go follow that to its end and he just assumes the worst of his kids, if they succeed, it's always going to be because of an accident.
Mm.
Like, he's never really going to think you
Mm.
earned it and did it because you were smart.
Yep.
It's always that this thing just happened to work out in spite of the fact
Yep.
that you are incompetent.
Yeah, so
or
don't get a
over-emotional
second to
or-
fucking bask in the glory of it, you know?
Exactly.
You didn't really accomplish anything, so you don't get to take credit. I don't have to give you credit for that thing because you didn't really even do it. You just got lucky.
Like when Tyrion does the thing with the chain and he's like, yeah, you're welcome, Dad. And he's like, what, do you want a fucking cookie for doing a thing that was good in a battle? That's your job. Shut up.
Oh my
And-
God.
Yeah.
I'm
just,
getting like weird, like I feel all weird just talking about Tywin this much because I'm just like, ugh. Like,
yeah.
it's low-key triggering in some way.
Yep. And then there's a part of me that's like, I do want also Tywin's approval, though. I get it. If I could make Tywin like me, I'd be like, see, that means something. It's like getting a compliment from Professor McGonagall.
Kind of.
So yeah, this is when they come upon the talk about what actually happened with the mountain and whether he's going to hand the mountain over, which is not happening. When Tyrion's like, he knows the mountain did it, Tywin's like, he doesn't know shit. He's
Right.
heard rumors. He's heard secondhand accounts. Nobody's got video footage of this happening.
He
So
is really
what we're
saying
gonna
that,
do-
right? Like,
Yeah.
in this world, this is exactly the way all information travels. But suddenly, Tywin is just like, this is very unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we get all of our information this way. We act on it all the time. But in this particular case, you can't. I mean, who's
I don't
to
know
say?
what you've heard, but
we
I
don't
can say with confidence.
we don't know what happened before they started recording. It's that energy.
Oh, there's two sides to every story. God, I hate that one so much in particular. I hate it. There's like so many things about. I hate it because mostly what people say is it's two sides to a story, which that's not even how you say that. It's there is two sides to every story. When you say it's two sides to a story, that doesn't even make grammatical sense. So stop it with that. Secondly, yeah, and oftentimes one side is just a blatant liar, like a giant liar, and we all just want to act like people don't straight up lie, but they do. It's quite common, in fact, and the more that you lie, the more you have to double down on that. So people get real good at it and real practiced at it, and then they have to stick to it even more. But there's also just the whole like, what do you think justifies what we just saw in this video? What's the second side to the story that makes that part that we just watched okay? Really? Oh, all right. Anyway, so this is the Amory Lorch angle they're gonna take.
Yeah, and then Tywin is like, well, it counts because he's the one who brought me the body, if you have to know.
I fucking love how much he's just, I'm going to give you this bit of information and make you feel like you really got me to open up by telling you something that's like, really, why can't you just tell him he brought me the body? Why does it have to be a battle just to get this piece of, who cares? Like, you're probably going to use this in your justification to Oberyn anyway. He's going to find out that's the way you're just say it then. Oh, he's so difficult. Christ.
This story about what happened that day, though. This, and then we all know what happened that day. But there's a line that was really striking to me when they're talking about what the mountain did, and it comes out that didn't necessarily need to kill. Is it Elia? And Tyrion is like, okay, well then, like, why did he kill her though? And the answer is simply because Tywin just basically forgot to mention you can spare her. Like, he just forgot to mention her at all. He was actually really focused on some other shit, and it just didn't occur to him to make mention that, hey, you don't have to kill her though. And that, for some reason, hit me just like, fuck, really? Like,
this is interesting because in the notes from Austin, he says, Tywin swears he did not order the rape and murder of Elia. Quote, I doubt I mentioned it at all. In actuality, he probably did. Tywin was pissed the Mad King did not approve of his suggestion of Cersei marrying Rhaegar, and he has ordered his men to rape women before. And he says, the rape, even you will not accuse me of giving that command, I would hope. Austin rightfully reminds us the fucking gall of Tywin saying that to Tyrion after everything with Tyrion and Tysha.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, low-key, thank you,
Yeah.
Austin, because I did kind of just forget that he has definitely ordered rapes a lot of times.
It's interesting that Tyrion doesn't have any internal reaction to that. That line,
I think that it's because when the order he gave was to a prostitute. So it doesn't, like, in Tyrion's mind, she was being paid, and it wasn't the same thing. You know, like, she doesn't count. This was a noble woman. He would never suggest that this happened to a noble woman.
Interesting.
That's my idea about it, but...
That's really interesting, because what I'm thinking about is that I wonder how much that when Tyrion talks about what his father did to Taisha, and he always mentions that, you know, she was paid for her work.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that it didn't occur to me that Tyrion would not still think of it as rape, even though she had been paid, even though she was a prostitute. But I guess now that you mention it, he never actually calls it that when the few times he tells that story.
Mm-mm.
He just says that, you know, she basically serviced all the men, you know, and he had to watch and all that stuff.
And by the end, she had silver running through her fingers like water,
yeah.
I think is what he says.
But so I think I have, every time I've heard that story, him recounting it, I think I have just sort of, in my own head, decided that Tyrion was viewing that as basically a rape, you know, but without him ever actually explicitly saying that's what he thought happened at all. I think I just sort of invented that, you know. Yeah.
Indeed.
That kind of bums me out that, you know, the sort of inherent classism in that, you know, that like, oh, well, a noble woman, his father would never. I mean, it tracks for this world, but it bums me out.
Yeah, definitely. So I love this moment too, where he says, far be it from me to question your cunning, but in your place, I believe I'd have let Robert Baratheon bloody his own hands. And Tywin, again, with the fucking insight into people's personalities, is like, are you, oh my God, you're an idiot then.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of Robert was that he wanted to be the hero, but he knew they were a threat, so he couldn't do it himself and be the hero, but he needed it to be done.
Yep.
So that's the service I provided him.
And I did it because we needed to sort of solidify our side of who we are throwing in with, because we fucking came late to this battle, and we needed to assure Robert that we were, you know, as he says, that they had forsaken House Targaryen forever. They needed a grand gesture, you know? And this was an opportunity. And because Tywin is who he is, he recognized it and seized on it, you know, because he's just fucking smart.
And then we have the description of, not only, like, did I not order the rape, but he says something about Amory and Rhaenys, and that he stabbed her like 50 times, and the girl was 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah. And he claims that he did it because she kicked him and wouldn't stop screaming.
If Lorch had half the wits the gods gave a turnip, he would have calmed her with a few sweet words and used a soft silk pillow. The blood was in him. And he says this with this real sort of disdain.
Yeah.
And Tyrion thinks, but not in you, father. There's no blood in Tywin Lannister.
I love this moment. Like his father is like simultaneously, admitting to a really horrible fucking thing, but also being like holding somebody in contempt for doing their horrible thing in like the same sentence.
Yeah, it's just about how it was done. Look, if you're gonna kill a 2-year-old, fine, but don't be uncouth about it. There are etiquettes we follow for these things.
Meanwhile, not as much distaste in his mouth when he's recounting about what Clegane did, you know. But I love this.
And then
too.
when it comes to the red wedding, he's just like, and I didn't dirty my hands for that shit at all. That was all Frey.
That, you know what? This is. I love, like, I read that thing when he's like, the blood is in Walder Frey's hands, not mine. Bitch, what? How? But I guess, technically speaking, in a court of law, I imagine that, Tywin could, have, what do you call it? Plausible deniability.
Indeed, yes. Yeah, I mean, he didn't make the man violate guest right, an ancient law that everyone holds as sacred. He didn't force him to do that. The man decided to be held in contempt of the gods and his whole line to be cursed, and that was his decision.
I love
Tywin was just like, I could pay you for it.
I love Tyrion when he talks about basically Walder Frey is not up to this task. He calls him an old man who loves to fondle his young wife and brood over all the slights he suffered, which is such a good description. But he would have never dared such a thing without a promise of protection. It's true. He is not doing this on his own.
Explain to me why it is more noble to kill 10,000 men in battle than a dozen at dinner. The price was cheap by any measure.
Tywin knows it's not the same thing. That is not the same.
He damn well good.
I hate those fucking arguments.
Yep.
And then guys, friends, listeners, then something very strange happens. As I was reading along, and I'm following along with the story, and they're telling me things that I kind of already know, but it's all still very interesting to read about. And then they drop this line that says that after Bolton becomes Warden of the North and takes home Arya Stark, to which both me and Tyrion said, "Word? Arya Stark? How?" And Bolton, what? And what we find out is that, because Tyrion is like, that bitch dead. She's dead. Remember that vine of when she does "My family's dead, my whole family's dead"?
Yes.
Remember that?
I forgot about that. Yep.
She was so cute.
Oh, Vine.
But, so Tyrion is like, no, she is definitely fucking dead. And Tywin says, so was Renly until the Blackwater. And doesn't go into detail because Tyrion is like, what does that mean? But
you could practically feel that cat-like grin on Tywin's face. What does that mean? Wouldn't you like to know? As he purrs gently in the corner. Ugh.
So yeah, so they are, and I know, guys, if you don't remember or not, like I know a little bit of some of the spoilery stuff and the ways that the books are different in the show, in that I thought I understood that in the books, Ramsay does not marry Sansa. He marries someone who they think is Sansa, is what I thought happened in the book. But now I'm confused. And is it that it's not a Sansa stand-in, it's an Arya stand-in? Is that what happens? Because I have no idea. I thought I knew. But now I don't think I know. I am so intrigued. I can't wait to see what is going on with this. I mean, it's possible maybe the plan changes and they do switch it to Sansa, but I don't know. But this is very, very interesting. And it says, perhaps Littlefinger succeeded where you and Varys failed. And Lord Bolton will wed her to his son and will allow the Dreadfort to fight the Ironborn for a few years, basically just keeping all those people out our way.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the meantime, you and Sansa need to have a kid so that the North can go to her heir. So this ended, even though the chapter was a lot of kind of stuff I knew, it ended with some very new information to me, at least.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, because you had told me before that after the Red Wedding is when I'm really going to start to notice changes. And I think a couple of other people have mentioned that as well. But I didn't expect it to be like the very first chapter.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of...
I don't care for that weird giggle. I don't like that at all.
Sorry. Like, there's some things that are always on my mind when I think about differences between the show and the book, and they are just like at the forefront. And then every now and then I'll stop and really think about it and remember some other truly wild shit they did in the book that isn't in the show. And I'm just like, oh my God, I forgot about that. So that's what that was me suddenly remembering like two different plot lines that are absolutely fucking banana pants. Oh, okay. So it ends with lest you forget, it is not only Joffrey who must needs take a maidenhead. I had not forgotten, though I had hoped you had. And when do you imagine Sansa will be at her most fertile? Tyrion asked his father in tones that dripped acid. Before or after I tell her how we murdered her mother and her brother? And then Davos.
Oh, Davos. What a sweet
It's good to be back with
man.
Davos, right? He's a good boy.
I really enjoy him. I do. He's so he feels of a lot of the characters. He feels really like one of us, watching all of these people, these highborn people and these nobles fight and talk about destiny and who should be king and all that. And Davos is just out here, just sort of watching along, with us as readers, just being like, do you see all this shit? That bitch in red is great. So I always enjoyed these chapters. And here he's being taught to read, which by the who was it? Pylos? I think his name is the new Maester. Which in the show he was Shireen, I think, was teaching him in the show.
Yes, right? Correct.
But here he's being taught proper, and also being taught like not alongside with, but not too far away from where the kids are actually learning to read. And he has this really sweet sort of feeling of just being almost embarrassed that these like children, can read and write in a way that he can't. And this whole chapter was a reminder for me, because I think I had it had come up in House of the Dragon. There was what was it? It was when they burned the Harwins, and the Who man, Who Face guy. What was his name? Who Face? What was his name? Laris. Has the like everything burned down.
I thought you were saying human really weirdly. I didn't get what you were doing there. Okay, I got it.
And he has everybody's tongues ripped out. And this idea, and there's like a little bit of a mention of that too in the Tyrion chapter, but this idea of like taking people's tongues out to keep secrets. And I always kind of balk at that, because I'm just like, there's other ways to communicate. But it's a reminder that like in this world, not everybody can read and write. There's a lot of people who can't. And I had forgotten that Davos can't read and write. So watching him learn was, I don't know, it was really sweet. Also,
there's something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say
no.
the fact that his motivation is that he's been given this station as hand, and now he wants to like improve himself so he can be befitting of the title. It's a very Davos thing to do.
Very much so. Versus being like, oh, I must be pretty great if you gave me this title. He's just like, oh, they gave me this title. Oh, God, now everybody's going to look at me. I got to do something.
They're going to expect me to know things.
And I do like that he's like, it would have been different if like Maester Crescent was teaching me how to read, but it's this fucking
This
young
kid.
Maester. I hate this. And I was just thinking like how interesting it is to be growing old enough that now there are people who are in kind of positions of authority over me socially that are way younger, and how weird it feels, you know?
It's like when you go to your doctor is, you know,
Yeah.
20 years younger than you. Like I'm at the age now where like most new doctors in their practices are all like hella younger than me. It's
exactly.
A weird thing.
When I brought the puppies to that last emergency clinic where they wound up having to be put down, the vet was this like 25-year-old, like very sweet redhead with this like rosy cheeked, like he just was so young and just so kind, but also I was just like, oh my god, you're an infant, like how do you know any of this? You finished college? How? You look like you haven't even been like gotten past your SATs. Yeah, just weird moments. And just the sense of humility that you have to be willing to like accept that you need to learn things. It's just a thing a lot of folks have trouble with, she said in a hypothetical way.
So the chapter opens with them also getting the news because, you know, shit is traveling really fast. And Davos is just like, at a wedding? This is, you know, this is going to be a fucking curse. This is terrible. Like, you don't just do that. I can't believe that they would do that. These Freys are cursed, and it says he could smell the burning blood again and hear the leech hissing. Because that is, I imagine, that night when she does the spell, you know, when like they do the leeching and then they burn them in that thing, and she says she's going to like kill the three kings or whatever. His mind goes right back to that moment.
Yeah, he definitely seems to be giving her credit.
As
much as like he kind of doesn't want to.
Like he argues pretty fiercely on like how are you taking credit for all this, you know, and it was supposed to be 3 and I only see 2 dead kings. But in his mind, at least, it seems like he goes immediately to that night. So it does feel like inside he's low-key like, shit, did he really do that? Did she really do that? Also, Queen Selyse is really, really devoted.
Yes.
I had forgotten, or either we just haven't seen it in a really long time. But she has really given her whole self to this new religion in a way that Stannis still hasn't. Or at least Stannis experiencing still a lot of doubt about, you know, the prophecy and if it's true and if he's really going to prevail. Selyse is out here just, you know, 100% believing in Melisandre and the Lord of Light, and is literally on her knees at one point begging Stannis to, because this whole conversation is really about what they're going to do with Edric. And
I'm sorry, I just keep thinking about Derek Jackson's wife.
Oh my god, you know, she like you guys.
Oh, y'all, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you could go look it up, and it's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. But yeah. It's kind of like that. Oh, and they're at the painted table, which now, having seen it in House of Dragon, like, it changes everything.
It's so cool looking.
It really is. So they're talking
a different energy.
I loved. When is it? Oh wait, looks like I'm ready to say. Fuck. I'm sorry, guys. It flew in and out of my brain. It's gone. But it was something about
the table.
It was something about the table, but I can't remember what. So they are convinced that they need to sacrifice Edric to get Stannis not only the win, but to awaken a stone dragon, if I'm reading this correctly. Do I have that right? Is that what we're talking about here? I feel like a while ago, before we broke for the TV show and this first came up, I wasn't sure if they literally meant this castle was going to turn into dragons they could ride to victory.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe it was more metaphorical, but it turns out that no, they really are talking about the dragons coming to life from the stone of Dragonstone, right?
Dragonstone is very literal, apparently.
Right? That is one, not a part of the show at all.
No, not even a little bit.
And as I was reading, even I was like, y'all can't really believe that. And then at one point they're having a conversation. They're like, what kind of dragons has bedrooms and furniture?
I swear to God. Real roomy dragon in here with an ensuite bath. Lovely.
I was so gratified to read that, Doug. I was like, okay, so they do realize this sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, I feel like, because I genuinely don't know if this is something that's gonna shake out in the books, but I feel like in the show they wouldn't even want to like put it forth as a thing people believed, because then it would get everyone's hopes up that they were gonna like see it happen, and they wouldn't want to just not pursue it at all. But yeah, I am very curious about this whole thing, because it's a divisive topic in the fandom.
Is it really? That's funny.
A little bit. Just whether or not people think it's like literally true or not.
I mean, these people, they're having this conversation about how once Stannis has a dragon, he can't lose. Like, you're going to fly out over your enemies, and you're going to be like Aegon the Conqueror when he had his dragons. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I really was reading like, hold up. They're talking about riding it. Like, they're talking about Stannis riding a dragon. Oh, they for real. Oh.
Yep.
And yeah, everybody in the room is just like, fuck that boy. They won't even say his fucking name.
No.
You know, he is nobody. The queen is like, you know, he's a whole curse on our life. It's his fault because Robert, like, you know, sullied our wedding bed or whatever.
Marriage
the fuck.
Bed.
And you know, this boy has been a curse. This boy is why I never gave you a son, she's claiming, you know. Once this boy is dead, I promise you I'll give you the son you've always wanted, which is a bold statement for her to make.
Sure is.
And Davos is watching all of this, and he doesn't say anything for a long time. He's thinking, this is terrible. You know, he's thinking to himself, I can't believe they're really thinking about sacrificing this boy. And, you know, Stannis would never do such a thing. I can't believe he's even, like, considering it. And then finally, he, like, raises a hand a little bit. Like, can I say something? And Stannis is so irritated.
I love this, because Stannis is like, he brings on Davos as his hand for Davos to do this.
Right?
And you know that's why you did it, Stannis. You know that you took this man who was going to say the things that you feel deep in your heart, but that you don't want to admit because they're deeply inconvenient to your cause. And now he's doing his goddamn job, and you're so cranky over it. And I want to be like mad at you, but honestly, that's how people work. So
I love that Stannis is irritated because Davos says, "Can I speak?" And Stannis is like, "The fuck do you think I hired you for? If you got something to say, just fucking say it. Like, what are you doing?"
But yeah, like Davos, like he is, I feel like, because of the fact that he doesn't come from nobility and can't divorce himself from a bastard born kid, he has just a lot more empathy
Yep.
than anybody else is able to muster, because they just don't even see people like this as being on the same level as
Yep.
of human.
And also, Davos was just in the dungeon not that long ago. So he knows that, yeah, he's got this position now, and he's got this supposed power now. But just as quickly as it was given to him, it could be snatched away from him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And where, you know, a lot of, I guess, highborn people, until they're in that situation, it never occurs to them that they can just be snatched up and thrown in somebody's dungeon. Like, who would dare, you know? But Davos doesn't have that how dare you energy about him. He understands that people can dare all the fucking time. You know?
Yes, they can.
So he treads very lightly because he has I think, a better understanding of how power works.
He was right there in the cell with the last hand.
Mm-hmm, right. So he says, you know, fucking, you were talking about curses, but Kinslayer is terrible. Like, you don't want to do that. That's something, you know, you cannot kill your family. That is a curse that will follow your whole line, basically. And Melisandre is just like, nobody cares about those eyes of gods and men, sir.
I swear to God.
The only god is R'hllor and the other. And they don't really give a fuck about that. So I don't know what you're talking about. And she calls them, and all small men curse what they cannot understand.
I love Davos being like, yeah, I am a small man.
Right?
I am very, very diminutive. Thank you for pointing that out. I admit it. That's fine. Yep. Also, I'm still right. Yep. Suck it.
Like, I'm so small, I need you to explain to me why you need to kill this boy. Tell it to me like I'm 5. Is what he says to her. And this is when he thinks to himself that he's going to keep saying Edric's name, because everybody else is just, you know, the boy. And he's going to try to humanize him in this conversation. Mm-hmm. And then this is when he hits her with the, you know, I saw you burn some leeches, and you said you was going to kill 3, but we only got 2 dead kings.
Appreciate you. I like that moment a lot. And Stannis being like, he's got you there.
Yeah, he does, right?
Isn't 3. And I was just like, really? That's... Okay.
Yeah. And then we have a whole conversation about, it's funny too, we were talking about Tywin and, like, you know, not wanting to give credit and everything, but we have this moment where Melisandre is claiming that these 2 kings have fallen because of praying to her god, you know, and this is evidence of her god's existence and her god's power. And Davos is just like, I don't know, though. One of them just fell from a bridge. So how can you take credit for that? And that's the thing about, like, praying to gods and then, like, blessings, you know, and things you think of as proof that your prayers have been answered.
Yep.
You know, and we do this thing, like, I know everybody's experience with religion is different. In my experience of Christianity, one of the things I heard over and over again is this sentiment of, when something good happens, you thank God for it. And when something bad happens, you thank God for getting you through it. Like, but you never blame God for the bad things. You can give him credit for the good things, but you can't blame him for the bad things. And, like, the way we sort of decide what we're going to give credit to, you know, these they literally had nothing to do with what happened at the Red Wedding. Like, like, tangibly, they had no part in that plan. But they are, you know, I'm assuming,
unless, like, Tywin was sent the plan in a dream by
right,
and we don't know about that part.
But, like, she can sit away, you know, miles and miles away on Dragonstone. She can sit and take credit for the Red Wedding, you know, and take credit for Balon Greyjoy dying. And it really just becomes a matter of what the people choose to believe in, you know? Like, if she says, we did that, and you trust her and have the same faith in her, then you're like, yeah, we did that. And you, like, feel super comfortable in that. Like, yep, we won that. But if you choose not to believe in it, then, like, you can't prove that she was successful. So the argument of, like, you had nothing to do with that, that is just as valid. It's just a weird way to center your power, you know?
Yeah, and I do like too that like at one point when they're talking about the visions in the flames, he says, even when the flames speak truly, they're full of tricks, it seems to me. That's Stannis saying that to her. But I really like that. Earlier this week, I sent Rashawn the in the beginning of November, I did a tarot spread for what was coming for the month. And I got all of these cards about new projects and opportunities, needing determination and willpower in the face of great challenges and strength being tested, unexpected upheaval, chaos, destruction, death, unexpected change, failures, needing to pick your battles, money coming easily to you. And I had all these thoughts on what this meant. And looking back, it was about inheriting 9 dogs that were very sick, many of whom died, whom I had to do a ton of fundraising for and still am in thousands of dollars of debt having taken care of. And it's just, yeah, were the cards wrong? No. Were they helpful? Also no. There was no way that was going to help to like it just didn't. It didn't. So yeah, there are times where it's just sort of like, yeah, okay, prophecy, honestly, it feels like it does more harm than good. Like, what's the point? What are we even doing?
I mean, the most fun is just like when you get past a thing and then you look back on it and then you're like, oh, I see. But that is, you can do that with anything. Like, we're so good at that.
Yes.
We're so good at deciding things have meaning and then deciding what it is they mean. We have very active imaginations as human beings.
Sure do. And lots of wishful thinking. I definitely was falling into like, ooh, maybe there's like a new show I'm going to start that's going to be really successful and bring a bunch of I had all surrounding work and income, personally. And no, you're going to attract lots of money, but that money has been spent already. So like you're kind of not attracting money even. Ugh, so annoying. Anyway,
but knowing this moment where she is that both like Selyse and I guess Melisandre to some extent, when they're being hammered about it's only been 2 kings and they're just like, no, but Joffrey's gonna die, and we all know, yeah, he is.
Indeed.
So then,
wake the stone dragon and let the traitors tremble. Like Aegon, you begin as Lord of Dragonstone. Like Aegon, you shall conquer. Let the false and the fickle feel your flames. Lots of alliteration here. And then Queen Selyse gets on her knees as well. I love when he says, "Stop clutching me, woman." I don't know why that cracked me up.
There's a moment like after that where Melisandre touches him and he does not pull away from her at all. And Davos is noticing that, and then there's like a little bit of a description of her, and that she's basically, the idea is that she's like very alluring in like a strange way, and that Stannis does not pull away from her in the way that he does his wife.
He sure doesn't.
He sure doesn't. So he tries to convince Stannis that Edric does not deserve to die in this way, and also that Edric has love for his uncle, and is basically like, he asks about you every day. Now, I don't, I mean, I guess that's true. I don't know if Davos is like padding that a little bit.
I don't know. When he goes and sees him at the Maesters, when he's going to have he says, "Was my uncle well?"
He does, yeah. I guess
inquires after him. I'm sure he's just kind of wondering, why have I been brought here and then I never see the fucking guy?
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Just wondering like what's going on, because I've been here and I haven't seen him one time. Because when we talk to Edric a little bit later, he spends way more time talking about and sort of boasting about his father, than he spends more. He doesn't really spend any energy talking about how impressed he is with Stan.
No, not at all.
But Davos is out here like, no, that kid cares a lot about you. He really wants the best for you, and if only you spent a little time with him and got to know him. But Stannis is at least saying that he hasn't really, like, I feel like he hasn't said he made a decision by the end of this, right? We don't know what Stannis is going to do, but Davos believes in his heart that Stannis would never do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he ends at the end of this. Just like, no, my king would never do such a thing. This boy is innocent. And he just couldn't kill his family. And isn't somebody like, what about Renly?
I mean, I think that it somebody does like sort of say, but it's interesting because I guess they are just believing in that was Melisandre's work. And I just found it interesting because like it's taken for granted. She killed Renly by everybody, it seems like. But yeah, Davos says, he was a traitor in arms, literally riding to war against him. Very different situation. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, I think that's true, but there's a piece of it that feels a little hollow.
Yeah, I mean, either you can't kill your family, or you can kill your family under certain circumstances, And if that's the case, then guess right, yeah, you can't kill people in your house except under certain circumstances.
Except if I'm cool with my entire lineage being cursed for the rest of the time. It depends. So yeah, let's go further on to the hanging out with. First, he runs into Salladhor Saan. I really enjoy Salladhor Saan so much.
He's still holding a grudge.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, I guess I forgave you, but I'm not going to forget. And I love when he says,
"Here's a list of all the cool things I didn't get because of you."
All of this shit I could have had. I did a full inventory. But yeah, he says something about how like, but I hear that you're making some little alliances of your own, huh? And Davos is like, God damn it. Like, I thought I was being all fucking sly and secret, and he just knows about it. But good for him. Good for you, Davos. Turns out that there are some folks out here who have not forgotten the old gods and are like, Lord of Light, what? I don't think so. Not interested. Sounds fake.
I don't know why that just made me laugh so hard. The idea of like one religious group being like, "Oh, your God sounds really fake," or not like our God.
Fake. Fake news. And I think also I listened to the audiobook for a part of this section, and the voice that he gives to Salladhor Saan I think is very effective. It's one of the few voices that I'm like, really, that's pretty good.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. And let's see, a certain Lysine pirate once told me a good smuggler stays out of sight. A crew with no tongues is even better. Big, strong mutes who cannot read or write. But I am glad to know that someone watches your back, old friend. Yeah, this is Salladhor who says, like, he'd killed his brother, but, like, yet Renly is die. What is it? Here it is. He could not harm his own blood. Lord Renly will be glad to hear this. That's the line. Oh, so good. And they part with a warning basically from Salladhor, who is just like, the higher you rise, the further you can fall. So just be careful, buddy. Yeah.
I feel like that's something Davos is, really aware of. Like that is something that he thinks about all the time, I think. And when he talks to Pylos, he's just kind of, I don't know if I should be doing this job. I don't think that this is really, I'm not sure I'm the right guy for this job. And Pylos is just very nice. He seems really sweet and very encouraging. He's like, you were a captain, captain rules the ship.
I love this. He's like, yeah, it's like the ship. It's the same thing. And Davos is like, it's not the fucking same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. And Pylos is like, all right, you're right. That's fair. See, but this is why he needs you, because you saw right through the bullshit that I was trying to feed you, which is exactly your job. So, like, you're proving my point for me, man. Which I was like, it kind of works too, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. And he even says to Davos, like, His Grace, he knows how valuable you are. And Davos is just like onions. That is what I have. That's what I bring to the table. Onions. He has the worst imposter syndrome.
He really does. But I mean, in a world where people are really willing to sacrifice a kid because he's a bastard and thus doesn't count as much of a human being, there's an understandable imposter syndrome.
Do you really want to be one of those people? Like, for real?
Yeah.
I'd rather just pretend to be one of those people, but like not actually be that awful on the inside.
No real person involved.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Succession, baby!
Gross.
We're gonna bring that shit up again once that third season.
Oh my God, that
out.
season's
Or
coming
fourth,
too.
is it? Yeah. It's gonna be we're gonna be talking about it, guys, so just be prepared. So yeah, he cites also a bunch of people who were like born in positions that seemed perfect and then sucked as hands.
Yeah,
and
he
then
mentions
vice versa.
we get a shout out to Otto Hightower, so that was fun.
Yes,
because like I know who that is now.
Hey,
Ryan Redwyn sounds familiar, but I can't say if that means anything. And Lord Butterwell, I had thought was on House of Dragon too, but that I was confusing him with Beesbury because those are both two fun names to say. Butterwell and Beesbury.
I like to Butterwell myself. I'll leave it up to your imagination what I mean by that. Who can tell? All right, so then he goes upstairs. He runs into Patchface, who's just chilling outside the door. Under the sea, the old fish eat the young fish. Don't know what that means, but I don't like it because Patchface is creepy.
Davos says, and up here, the young fish teach the old fish. But because you get it, his teacher's very young, and Davos is old, so. I love that he just makes a joke for Patchface, who is not in a position to appreciate it whatsoever, but Davos goes ahead and makes it anyway.
He's just talking to himself, basically. And I love, too, he has, like, a lot of pride over the fact that his son is in here just sitting beside a princess.
Yeah.
And learning to read and write in such a way that it's obviously comes quite easy to him, and the Maester has said how good his son is at it and that he's very dutiful in his studies and everything, and it's just much more important to him that his child be moving forward in a way that his own forward movement does not seem to give him that same satisfaction.
Exactly.
Really.
Like, he doesn't seem to have, he has a lot of trepidation about this role in as hand. You know, there's anxiety about being lifted up to such heights because, again, the further you have to fall. But the good thing that's come from this raising station is the way in which he's able to raise his son and the opportunities that it presents for his children, who he's also a reminder that he's lost 4 of his sons. Yeah. And I think it says there's Devin. I don't think Devin is the last. I feel like there's a mention of some other maybe younger ones, but he's lost 4 kids, and he does have this one son that is getting to reap the benefits of the sacrifices that Davos has made in a way that his other sons didn't, because they all sort of perished, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a moment of being almost I don't love where I am. I don't think I should be in this job as hand. I think I'm not well suited for it, and it's dangerous, but look what it gives. Look what it lets me provide for my son and the opportunities that it provides for my son. And that feels real, that's some real shit.
Very much so. Yeah. So he comes in, there's a bit of Edric boasting about Robert, and he talks about winning 3 battles in a day, and he tells the story, and I love that Devin looks to the Maester and is like, is that how it happened? Because he's over here, trust but verify. And fucking Edric interrupts and it's like, I said so, didn't I? And I'm like, ooh, sir.
That was kind of spicy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, because I don't really know Edric very well yet. I feel like we haven't spent really any time with him, so I don't know what kind of kid he is. But I have clearly made some assumptions. Because I was really surprised in this moment. I was like, oh, shit, wait. Is that what kind of kid he is?
He's got a little bit of an attitude, huh? And eventually Pylos is like, look, your dad was great and all, but he didn't win every battle. He didn't unseat every person he went up against, and like he fucked up sometimes, and that's fine. He's a person. Just
Edrica's
chill.
like, no, I will
He
not
won't hear
chill. He won more than he lost, and he killed Prince Rhaegar. So,
there is here it is. Yeah. So he's like, all right, I'm going to give your dad some lessons. So I'll let you take off. And he says to Davos, how about we read this Conquest of Dorne? Your son is really engrossed. And Davos is like, my son is 12. I need to do work. I'm a man with a job.
Grown-up lesson, please. I need to read some memos.
Yes.
Which is pretty much what ends up happening. So he brings out this old letter now, and it is the letter from the Wall, and it is talking about how Mormont went out, and there's a host of wildlings, and there was an attack in a haunted forest, and they need men, and they need help, and this letter is so late. Davos,
it's so late.
Yeah, but Davos is like reacting to it, kind of like, oh my God, wait, did Stannis see this? Like, and we find out that Stannis hasn't seen it.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to be like, yeah, he should see this immediately.
I did too.
And instead, he's like, no, he does not need to see this and get some more like confirmation that Melisandre is right about this shit. That's the last thing we need right now.
And he's just
I was like, oh, you're right. Probably like this would spur him to make that sacrifice, which is interesting that it wasn't shown to him before.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, because in this moment it would definitely lend itself to be like, oh, here's another reason why we need to go ahead and do this ritual. But I'm curious, like, because I feel like I can't remember everything exactly how it happened in the show, but I remember there was a whole thing about what if Stannis and Melisandre had known about what was going on in the North, because maybe they would have like turned their attention to that. And then having this be like, oh, somebody did mail a letter to Stannis, he just never saw it. If he saw it, I wonder, would he have thought that they needed to go north and help, even though Stannis doesn't really have anything to offer? He's got like no men, by the way, y'all, at this point. He is in a bad state.
Earlier, Selyse says something about show them your power, and he's like, my power? Yeah. I have 20 men.
It is not looking great. I'm curious if Stannis had gotten this letter, would he have, in league with Melisandre, been like, okay, this is more proof of the fight we should be fighting, and you're the chosen one to lead us in this battle against like these others or whatever. It just made me think about that. But yes, Davos is just like, you know what, you did the right thing when the letter came. It went to the right person, and he made a decision, and it's not for me to go back and undo that. So let's just say never mind.
Yeah, what do you think of this decision? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I think that Davos is right, that if he had taken this letter to them right now, it would have been used as just proof that they need to go ahead with that sacrifice. And I don't really want to see that happen. I don't know if it does or not. I really have no idea. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen going forward. This Edric person did not exist in the show. I do not know what to make of him. I don't know, like, how long he's here for. But I don't want to see them murder this child for, like, magic reasons. I just don't want to see it. So I'm hoping that we don't get this. And if we do get it, it's very different than what they did before with the leeching. This is a different thing. And if Stannis okays this to do this, that is really a line you don't come back from, right?
Yeah, I have to agree.
And I'm just not sure where Stannis is. I know that he believes in the righteousness of him being like the king as Robert's heir. I know he believes that with like his whole spirit. but I don't know if he's at the edge yet to do something like, because this is so dishonorable, you know. This feels like I'm with Davos. Like this, he can't be here yet, can he? So I don't know, y'all. I don't know. But I'm glad that Davos didn't go take this letter running up to show everybody right now. I think that was the right thing to do.
So it ends with him being like, let's do a different letter, actually. And the maester being like, oh, is this one too difficult? And he says, it's too troubling. It makes me have bad feelings. So I would like a different letter.
Davos is going to close this app. He's going to log out of Facebook for right now.
He's fucking signing out.
Much. He's going to go ahead and log into something else. He's going to go hop over.
Deactivating.
Right.
And that is the end of the chapter. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to say hi to new patrons next week because I have got to go. It's the holiday times, as y'all know. And Rashawn and I both have had engagements on the Saturdays that we record in the morning. So we recorded quite a bit earlier than normal today so that we could get it done, but I could still make this thing. And nevertheless, we are still over time a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to wish everybody a very happy holiday. Hope that y'all are enjoying yourselves. And if you're not enjoying yourselves, that it's not too terrible. I hope you're having a gentle holiday.
That's the thing. A gentle holiday season to you all, really.
Yeah.
You know, that you can get through it the best that you possibly can, whatever that looks like, you know?
We're with you. We're with you. And there will be no episode next week, but we will be back the week after in the new year, I guess.
Oh, my God. Shut up.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear anything about a new year. Just
everybody
calm down.
Everybody just calm down.
I am so stressed that we are about to be in 2023. I cannot even tell you. Oh, I just said it out loud, and I feel sick to my stomach.
She just did a little.
I really did.
All right, everybody. We love you very much, and we appreciate you. If you want to become a patron, patreon.com/unspoiled. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.